but now everybody knows. Got to keep.
You don't have to be retired to receive tax-free income. The problem is the vehicles that we've been conditioned to believe to help get us there were never designed to produce income.
Got to keep going. What you want to be, going, you will see. It's your destiny, be in harmony. We were never meant to be apart. What you want to be, going, you will see. You can have everything you want. It's your destiny, be in harmony. Ooh.
If you had a machine in your garage and all you had to do was put a quarter in it and it printed out $100, put a quarter in it, printed out $100, would you ever stop that machine from running?
But now everybody knows.
So what if you use that job that you hate as leverage to fill your machine so they can create income for you, so you don't have to worry about income?
Really know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep going.
Oh, wait, hold on. We're resetting. Wait, hold on a second. That wasn't what we were supposed to do. Okay. We weren't ready for that part yet. Okay. But we're ready now. Hello, everyone. Get in here. We're excited for what we have to share tonight. This has been a really good series. You guys have given us a lot of feedback in how we can just serve better out here and help more people understand this concept. Again, this concept velocity banking is so important to understand because at the root of it, the most powerful part of this is understanding leverage, right? Like being able to identify your leverage because it threads all up and through all of the other strategies that we have used in our own machine and the strategies that you can deploy inside of yours as well. So get in here. If you joined us for part 1 of our Velocity Banking series, you already know how powerful the strategy can be for accelerating debt, repayment, and boosting your cash flow. Tonight, we're diving in even deeper to show you the easiest way to understand and execute the steps that you should take every single month. So whether you're new to Velocity Banking or looking to refine your approach, this live stream, this video is for you. If you have any questions too, while we're going through this process, by the way, just a heads up, just some housekeeping, just put a Q in front of your question and then we'll be sure it helps me identify it through the chat. Makes it easier. So yeah, we appreciate that. Shout out to everybody who's already here.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, thank you for that. By the way, Nathan was saying Sequia also said it was hard to find the live stream tonight.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is. So, well, we're glad you guys found us. Okay, we're all here. So let's get started. One of the things that I really do appreciate is the feedback that people have been giving. And one of those is that they love how you describe it. Now, when you're on like a consultation call, you don't have the slides out and you're not showing people visually how to do this. However, when they're on the stream like this and they're able to ask the questions right then and there, sometimes this is where those aha moments happen. Then when you get on the calls or when they get on the calls with you, then you're able to make those connections with their own personal profile, right? Like this is where this would align with you, because sometimes it's hard to interpret this stuff, right? And then look at your own numbers and go, what? One thing that we're going to walk through today is the Velocity Banking worksheet, the workbook. And if you haven't gotten that, then you'll want to get that after today, I'm sure. This is a great way to gather all of your numbers because step 1 is know your numbers. So we're going to show you how to get that again at the end, but we're going to walk through it so that you understand how to use it and how we use it and why it's so helpful.
Yeah, really, this is I'll call it a twofer, because normally we will walk through a velocity banking example like we normally do, but very rarely. And then at the end of that example, we pull up the sheet to say, hey, if you want to do velocity banking or you have interest in, trying to understand what your numbers are, hey, here's some tools that we offer for free for you to be able to do that. But today, we're actually going to not just walk through an example, but also apply the example to the tools that we offer. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting. And we're also going to I'm going to share my screen versus just I'm going to bounce back and forth between sharing my screen and the vibe board. So that should be interesting as well. And this is an actual example. We did change a few numbers, adjust a few things, but it's a pretty basic example because what I wanted to focus on first was just one, understanding how to populate the sheet and then how to take a basic approach to velocity banking. People come to me in all different, I'll call it, phases of where they are in this journey. And tonight is really about what it looks like when that initial conversation starts. What the baseline, I'll call it, numbers look like, and then we'll just kind of jump into what it looks like from a velocity banking perspective. So
Okay. I'm ready to go. You ready to get started?
let's do it.
Let's do it.
So the main objective, well, I am going to highlight for those who may not have been here on what day was that on Sunday. I am going to briefly just kind of go through some of the slides that we've already gone through. Again, this is about velocity banking. The focus is on velocity banking, and what is it? It's really about eliminating debt. And I love this visual as well because a lot of times when I'm talking to people, it does feel like you're drowning, you're weighted down. And when I'm focus on or start asking about the goal, it's kind of hard to see the goal when it doesn't feel like you can even breathe, right? So, what is it? It's a strategy that's focused on using. Oh, I forgot to grab my laser. One moment, let me grab my laser. So it's a strategy focused on debt repayment, but it's really about leverage. And from my perspective, velocity banking is only about leveraging the debt tool, leveraging the vehicle that you're going to use to pay off that debt. What debt you're paying off, how long it's gonna take you to pay it off. To From my perspective, that is not my focus. My main focus is what is the tool, and focusing all of your attention on that debt tool. Why? Because when you do that, what ends up happening is you end up creating room on the debt tool to be able to pay off debt effectively. So again, it's just a strategy. It's a strategy about debt repayment. And there's several benefits that we've kind of highlighted over these last few days in reference. Obviously there's faster debt payoff. In most cases, it's about recapturing, instead of you sending out that interest to some bank, you're actually recapturing that interest for yourself, and it's allowing your debt tool to be paid down faster. So usually there is a savings or a non-payment of interest. So therefore it allows you to be able to hold on to more of your cash flow. And then obviously that means increased cash flow. This one is, I'll call it, a secondary benefit, because a lot of times when people are doing velocity banking, they're focused on improving their debt related challenges. But the secondary benefit of that is it also has an impact on your credit score. Now, a lot of times it might actually cause your credit score to get worse. But over time, as you continue paying down the debt and you're using these debt tools the way they're supposed to be used, your credit score will absolutely increase. DTI will increase. Your credit worthiness will improve. And then the last piece, which is to me one of the most important, it's getting multiple uses out of the same dollar. Being able to use the same dollar more than once. What that does, it allows you to, one, stretch the dollar, but two, it allows you to then again ultimately end up being increasing your cash flow because you're able to get multiple uses out of the same dollar, which sounds strange because I get a lot of flack about this statement, that this isn't possible. But I'll kind of walk you through how, from my perspective, it is very possible. And obviously, these are the variables that goes into that equation. You've got your income, whatever that W-2 job or 1099 income might be. You've got your income, and traditionally it goes into a checking account and it sits and it waits for bills to be paid. And then what we're kind of introducing into this flow is a debt tool, which in a lot of cases used to be or currently is one of the expenses or debts. We're just leveraging it as a debt tool and then ultimately recapturing that cash flow. Whereas today that cash flow may be sitting here. And what do I mean? Well, I kind of mentioned this on Sunday. Let me move it over to the right some. Kind of mentioned this on Sunday. To me, This is one of the best visuals I've seen as it relates to velocity banking. And obviously, this is not something that I came up with. My wife, I think, did an amazing job with this visual because, in truth, this is exactly what addressing or aggressively going after debt looks like. Meaning, all of us are using our cash flow to pay down debt. And the more debt we're able to pay off, the more cash flow we're able to have. The more cash flow we're able to have, the more we're able to keep interest at bay, to the point where if you're freeing up enough cash flow, meaning if the more money you have, the less interest even matters, because this is where you can justify paying off a high interest credit card with a high interest credit card, or paying off a higher interest home equity line of credit to pay off a lower interest car loan or something like that. Meaning, as your cash flow continues to increase, you're able to pay off more and more debt. Your cash flow increases more and more, which allows you to keep interest at bay. And one of the things that, sweetheart, you highlighted on Sunday was, don't forget about the perks. When you're leveraging the right debt tool, those perks can end up happening, which allows you to be able to, maybe get cash back on some of those debt tools you're using, or you're able to recapture miles that allows you to be able to travel. There are these perks that comes along just from the process of eliminating debt. So there are other perks associated, not just with eliminating the debt or getting yourself in a better credit position, but also the other perks that comes along with it as well. Were you about to say something?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I love the recap because I think that sometimes you say things in a different way,
Right.
and I think that's beautiful.
And what do we normally do? And again, this is, and I'm moving very fast because I don't want to, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the recap, but I just wanted to just restate what has already been stated. And that is, traditionally, income comes in. And as income comes in, we pay bills, whatever those bills are. Some of them are expenses that won't change, meaning they're our cell phone, electric, streaming services, stuff like that. And then some of them also are debts that, when I pay them off, I don't have them again, like credit card bills or car loans and stuff like that. And then what happens is that cash flow that's left over ends up sitting in that checking account doing nothing, because most of us are not collecting or making interest inside of our checking account, or we move that cash flow into savings. But ultimately, once we pay a bill, that cash flow is gone. And the idea behind velocity banking is, what if, following the exact same process, but adding into this process a debt tool? And when we add into that debt tool, when all of the income, not some, when all of the income goes on to that debt tool, we end up paying bills from that debt tool. Meaning, when all of the income goes into the debt tool, that has satisfied the payment. It may not have paid the debt tool off, but it has satisfied the payment on the tool. And then from there, we're going to pay debts, whatever those debts are, whatever those expenses are, which means the same dollar that brought the interest down on that debt tool, the same dollar that brought that interest down on that debt tool is now leaving that debt tool going to pay an expense. So in essence, what has just happened is we have just used the same dollar more than once. And then once those bills have been paid, then that we recapture that cash flow that ends up sitting on that debt tool, which drives that balance down, which allows us to end up paying off the balance on that debt tool faster, which allows us to chunk away at more debt. So we talked about many different ones. In today's example, what I wanted to highlight was a gentleman, I think he's right around the age of 29, fairly young gentleman, just getting started on his velocity banking journey. He's finally got a decent job in front of him. I think prior to this job, not having the job that he has today had caused him to kind of, I'll call it, build up some debt, some credit card debt. Nothing major, but just enough to where, I can't accomplish some of the goals that I want to accomplish because I've got this credit card and these debts that I want to get rid of. And so he does not own a home, he's renting. And so what he was able to qualify for, and this is something that you guys can go take a look at as well. As I mentioned on Sunday, there are several banks and credit unions that have reopened I'll call it, the process of people being able to access personal lines of credit. So this 29-year-old with a decent credit score is
in a position to get a line of credit. And so he reached out to me the moment he received the line of credit. So he hasn't used it yet. And he accessed our sheets to kind of just lay out his numbers. And I think that should be the next thing. Yep. And so if we just want to kind of highlight what this current gentleman's situation is, I think that's about as big. I want to highlight what this gentleman's situation is. Again, he makes about $44.20 a month. $4,420 a month is what he's making. And again, he has not started velocity banking. He's watched a lot of videos. He watched a lot of I'll call it social media influencers around this subject, and he wants to figure out how. And his objective is to address this debt. So the question is, how can he eliminate and or reduce this debt? And right now, what he does is a certain dollar amount goes to paying his normal expenses, his utilities, his groceries, and etc. And then in addition to that, he's got some credit cards. He's got some credit cards with some fairly decent or low monthly payments that he's addressing. And as I mentioned, he just picked up a personal line of credit. Me and my writing today. He just picked up a personal line of credit. So as a result, the thought process was, what can I do? How can I use this personal line of credit to be able to eliminate debt? And one of the things that jumped out to me was when we were filling out the sheet, I went, well, it looks to me like you're doing pretty good from a cash flow perspective. $980 a month. I don't know about you, but if I had about $980 a month, there's a fair amount of debt that I could address. $980 a month is almost $1,000. $1,000 times 12, that's 12 grand a year. $1,000 a year, I can go attack that debt. And so as he filled out his sheet and I received the sheet, this is what I saw. Meaning, yes, he's got decent income. And yes, he does have expenses. And those expenses equate to about $34.40. And again, he's even putting away a certain dollar amount into his IRA, which is pretty awesome. But when you take his debts, expenses, and even what he's putting away in this IRA and subtract that from his normal income, he's got about $44.20 in income. He's got left over about $980 a month. I'm really not seeing the challenge. Well, how many of us are very similar to this gentleman where we may have some bills, but most of us don't pay that minimum amount on those bills. Most of us don't just pay the minimum payment on that credit card. And in most cases, he's right for not doing that, because if you were to pay the minimum payment on these credit cards, what would happen? The balance would never move. You'd really never get close to accomplishing the goal of eliminating that debt. And so what we learned was he's not just paying the minimum on these credit cards bills, he's also doing some extra. So what's happening is, and I'll make this side a little bit bigger so we can see it a little bit better. So what's happening is he's not just paying $110 on credit card one, he's adding an extra $90 payment. Why? He's minimum payment is $110. I add an extra 90. There's $200 a month. Seems reasonable, right? And in addition to credit card number two, he's not just paying $160. There's an extra $140 payment going on in it. And then his car note. His objective is to pay off his car note as quickly as possible. Again, he's doing the same thing all of us do. We've been educated to believe this is the process that we should take if we want to eliminate our debt, right? So he's making extra payments like many of us do. So when you look at the extra payments that he's making in total, out of that $980, there's an additional $435 going just to extra payments. When we talk about doing velocity banking, one of the first things I ask is, what is your cash flow? And then when you share with me what your cash flow is, my second question is, does that cash flow include the fact that you are making extra payments on other bills? Because most of the times we do it unconsciously. And so my question is, your cash flow is based on you paying the minimum on everything. What is left over at the end of the month? So on paper, it looks like $545. Meaning from his perspective. And again, $545, I'm going to say isn't I'll call it, isn't a small amount. especially again, he's 29 years old, just kind of getting his life started. He's got cash flow about $545. Another piece I try to connect people to is this isn't a monthly amount, meaning his cash flow when he's paying the minimums on everything about 980. When he's paying the extra payments, his cash flow is about 545. Seems like a decent amount of money. But when you realize that your cash flow doesn't come to you in one shot, meaning it's not $545 today, it's $545 spread over 30 days, spread over a month. So if you were to divide this number by four, that 545 is more like what is it, about maybe $136 a week. So if you wanted to go out with, again, 29, if you wanted to go out with your friends, if you wanted to go watch a movie, if you wanted to take a lady friend out on a date, if you wanted to do anything other than just go to work and pay bills, you got about $136 a week to be able to do that. And now the reason I say this is it goes back to that second slide that I showed, drowning. When I was talking to this gentleman, you can hear it in his voice. It feels like even though he makes decent money, it doesn't feel like he has much. And when you do this math, it makes sense. 136 divided by four. I'm sorry, not 136. 545 divided by four is only $136 a month, which again, it makes sense why he feels as though he's drowning. So that's the current situation, meaning this is what it looks like when he came to me. He's got an opportunity here, but we haven't introduced it yet. He wants to know the best way of being able to use and or leverage this line of credit. And so what I proposed is this is what it would look like when we jump into velocity banking. And there's some things I want to highlight here. The first one is this. Because of what I had to ask him a little bit, I needed a little bit more information on this IRA that he was contributing to. One, what is it invested in? How much he has in it. There was a lot more detail we had to talk about. The bottom line is, I said, for this situation, what I want to do is pause your contributions into this IRA. So he had $500 a month coming straight out of this 4420 into an IRA. So we paused it. So in doing so, his cash flow immediately increased, right? In addition, I wanted to focus less on the making extra payments and more on what are those minimum payments that you're making. And so these bills, these normal expenses aren't going to change. So he's got, out of that 4420, he's got 1975 going to his normal bills, not a problem. But he's got this line of credit. This line of credit is for $15,000. He's got a $15,000 line of credit. What I suggested was, hey, let's take a look at these three credit cards and let's simply pay them off. He's got $2,700 on one, $5,000 on the other, and $2,900 on the other. So if you add that together, it ends up being about $10,600. Yeah, $10,600 in essence is what is those three credit cards accumulate to. And so the thought process was, what if we just pay those off? So at month zero, meaning we're starting velocity banking. So at month zero, all of his income goes into his checking account. He's going to take, and from his income, all of his income from his checking account is going directly on to that personal line of credit. And what's cool about this personal line of credit is he's actually connected to his checking account. So it's being used as overdraft protection. But the bottom line is all of his income is going on to this line of credit. And what's coming out of this line of credit is $1975 on his bills, a $10,600 one-time payment to pay off these credit cards. And there is an interest payment there, which we will get into. His car note still coming out of the line of credit. And again, we stopped payment on the IRA. So if you were to add all these up at the end of month zero, which would be the start of month one, he now has a balance of left over on that line of credit at the end of month one of about $8,860, meaning $13,280 is what he ended up putting on the line of credit. His income of $420 went on to it. Remember, the balance started at zero. So when he paid $13,280 from the line of credit, the balance goes to $13,280. But then when his income throughout the month goes on to that line of credit, it drops the balance down to $8,860. So he's got about, on that $15,000 line of credit, he's got a balance of $8,860, which means the difference between $15,000 and $8,860, that difference is how much room he has left, how much available room he has left on that line of credit if he needed it. So if he had some type of emergency, he's got about 6140 for that emergency. And if you were to add that up over time, just a minute, I think I got that here. Yep. So once we are done with velocity banking, this is kind of giving the answer to the test without the test being finished. Once we are done with velocity banking, his ending cash flow, meaning the ending cash flow available to him once we're done, will be about 2340 a month. Again, just hold that for at the end. But the bottom line is his ending cash flow once we're done with velocity banking will be about 2340. But for starters, we're sitting at month one. Income has come in. We've placed that income onto the debt tool. We're paying bills from the debt tool to include chunking away at these credit cards, which means at month two, these credit card payments are gone, which means his cash flow is increased. I am going to account for interest in this case as well. And just to do some quick math around the interest, it's a $15,000 line of credit, and the interest rate is 11.85%. If you do that math equates to, or here, I'll do it real quick, because I don't remember. So 15,000 times 0.1185 is 1777. And now if you divide this number, 1777.50 divided by 12, that's what gives you, I think it's like 149 something. So, not 149, 104, 104 or something, I'm sorry. Let's do it real quick, divided by 12. Yep, I was right. So it's like 148 and some change. But notice, I'm showing here 105. I'll show you why I'm showing 105. But the bottom line is on the $15,000, when there's no balance, he pays no interest. So he's not paying interest on $15,000. What is he actually paying interest on? He's paying interest on the balance. And so in this case, the balance isn't 15,000. The balance is actually what he used to pay off the credit cards, which is $10,600. And so what is $10,600 times that same interest rate? 10,600 times 0.1185 is 1256.10, which means this is 1256. And so then what does this dollar amount become when you divide 1256 by 12?
Does
You end up
everybody have
with
their calculators out?
you end up with 104 point, what is that, 6?
Six, six, six,
So,
six, seven.
which
Yeah.
means it's 105. Hence, this 105 is the credit that is charged on this dollar amount starting at month one. But notice, at the end of the month, there's a new balance, which means the interest that's owed would be that balance times 11.85% divided by 12 would be the new dollar amount that he would owe at the end of the month. So notice how this dollar amount here, this is the largest amount of interest he will ever pay in a month. Because every month when he's, well, not necessarily the largest unless he goes above the 10,600. But my point is, as he continues to allow his cash flow to live on the debt tool, the amount of interest he's going to pay drops. And this is the reason why you can tend to justify paying 11.85% on some, I'll call it some debt tool, which seems high when you're paying off a credit card that might be less or a car that might be less. You can justify it because every month your cash flow knocks that interest down. And so what I want to do here, sweetheart, if you don't mind, is let's go ahead and let me click on it first. Let's go
Hold
ahead
on.
and share my screen.
Okay, well,
We got a question before we do that.
Well, no, we don't. I don't see any questions.
Okay, good.
But while you're doing that, I just wanted to explain a couple of things. One is the reason there's a reason why we right here categorized the different types of debts and expenses in different colors and by their kind of like category. So a lot of people struggle to place whatever it is their payment, the payments that they're making in their appropriate category. So when we're in the worksheet, you'll see that they are divided up and for good reason. So we have okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, the expenses are more like your living expenses. So that's why these are separated in this way. So these would be month to month, no matter what. There is not an amount that you can pay towards it that is going to remove that payment indefinitely, like a mortgage, like a car note, like a loan, those types of things. They just keep going every single month. So that's where that's what classifies as expenses. Then anything else that's more like in the debts are even lumped together, but for the sake of choosing your debt tool, I separated them. This is a loan, right? Still a debt, but it's not an expense. The car note, a lot of people put it in the asset column, or they'll put their home in the debt column, and because they see that as debt and they don't necessarily see it as an asset. So that's why I just, for his profile, it's a little different because he's young. He doesn't have a lot of stuff going on. So it's not as helpful as somebody who might have more things going on. So I wanted to explain what this was. We get this question a lot. How do I, like, where do I put things? The reason why it is separated is for good reason. If you have, one is where your leverage is, right? That's one. Two is being able to identify what are your expenses that could or could not be influenced. And then the other part is what is your actual debt? What is the important debt? So many people focus on their home being really important to pay off, like it's a top priority. When you start to see leverage and how it's working, you might start to see that a little bit differently. But if you're just associating it with debt, it's hard to let go and see it as leverage, right? In that way, assets are leverageable. So that's why I just wanted to explain that part.
Appreciate it.
I don't see it up there anymore.
Well, hold on, let me go grab it.
Okay.
There we go. Should be happening now.
Let's see. Do we have it on here? Boop. Oh, yep.
Got it?
Here we go. Yep.
All right, perfect. Let's see here. One moment.
I'll get out the way.
So normally this is the first page that everybody sees, right? And what I just wanted to jump right into, rather than going to the summary first, the summary is a recap of everything that you've already done. So the thought process is, hey, let's jump right in here for the income. And as I mentioned, this gentleman is just now getting his life started. Again, 29 years of age, got a decent job. He brings home about $44.20 a month is the income that he brings home after taxes. And then from an asset perspective, there isn't much there. He's got this $500 that he's putting away into this Roth IRA. And again, he's putting this money in after tax. So he gets his income. Then he takes $500 a month and he puts it away into his Roth IRA, which is awesome. And you can tell he's been, so the maximum that you can put inside of an IRA is about $7,000 at his age. He's got about $6,800 in it. So you can tell this is something that he's just started basically last year when he started this job. Expense wise, these are the things that just won't change. He's got car insurance, he's got utilities, streaming services, groceries, rent. And again, as I see these numbers, I know there's more there. Like you might ask, where's gas? Like I know there's other things there, but he's doing the best he can to identify what those items are that he's spending money on, which is why when we go to the summary page and you see what his cash flow shows, we ended up walking through what we show in this sheet and what he actually has for cash flow are actually two different numbers. And so those are the expenses. And then debt wise, let's see here. Let me make this a little bit smaller. There we go. And then debt wise, he's got the car. I think he bought the vehicle about 32,000. He owes about 28,700 on it. He's got these three credit cards that we referenced. Um, the balance on them are, I'd say he's not maxed out anywhere, which is also why he was able to qualify for a line of credit. So he's got some credit cards that have some decent balances on it, but none of them are maxed out. And then obviously these are the monthly payments that he's making on those, and he just got qualified for this personal line of credit. And here I'm going to do something here because that 10,600 is after the fact, meaning that's taking these $3 amounts here and paying off. But to start, he's starting out with no balance on this line of credit. When we first met, this is exactly how his sheet looked. Now, it was a little bit, I'll call it organized a little bit differently, but ultimately, this is what it boiled down to. And this personal line of credit, as I mentioned, is coming from a US bank. You can see his interest rates over here. He's got a car with about a 5.25% interest rate. His credit cards are pretty high. And he's got this line of credit, which is about 11.5. So in total, he's got a total, I'll call it debt balance of around 39,350. And then with the line of credit added to some of these other debts that he has, I think he's in pretty good shape. He's spending right now. What's going out is about $965 a month towards these debts. But when we pay off these three credit cards, and again, that's what I'm doing at the start. To me, I identified this line of credit as being an awesome tool, and so the first step is to take these three items here, and we're going to pay them off. And if in that math, so if you add these $3 amounts up, it ends up being 10,600. Notice down here in the corner, 10,600. So we're going to end up taking 10,600 and paying it off. And so now let's go over to the summary page. So from a summary perspective, again, this number here, the starting balance includes that line of credit. So the 49,950 is coming from the total amount of debts he's accumulated.
Um,
Go ahead, sweetheart.
On the status of those, now you got to change it to paid off, or it'll.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
I understand. I'm just walking. This is just the baseline of where we started. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So again, right now it's showing the 4950 here, and when you go to the summary page, that's what's showing as far as debt. But you're right, we are in the midst of paying off that debt using that line of credit. So these numbers are going to shift. And if you notice cash flow is showing 980. This is the same 980 we were showing on the Vibe board. And as I mentioned, to me, that's about $1,000 a month, 12 grand a year. Why are we talking about paying off debt if you've got $1,000 a month in cash flow? But what do you learn? What did we learn? We learned that, hey, these expenses, well, not the expenses, these debts, he wasn't just paying $600 a month. He was paying $600 a month plus an additional 100. He wasn't just paying $110 a month. He was paying $110 plus an additional 90. So he was doing what we all do, and that is making those extra payments on our line of credits, trying to get them paid off as quickly as possible. So again, he's got great habits. These are all things that we can work with. The only other thing I wanted to highlight was, again, from an asset perspective, he's just getting started. So he's got this $500 a month going towards his IRA. And what I decided to do, I'm not suggesting you do this. My suggestion was, hey, what would this look like if we were to stop paying on this IRA just for a short period of time? And now, we talk about there being many ways to 10, and we talk about here there being opportunities where sometimes it may take I'll call it an unorthodox approach. But here's the truth around this gentleman's situation. He could continue this $500 a month. It just means that that's $500 less every month in cash flow that he has, which means in order to pay the debt tool off faster or pay the debt off faster, it would just take that much more time. So it's not a life or death type situation here, meaning, hey, because he did or didn't stop contributing to his IRA, there was some huge impact. It's a choice. He has the autonomy or the flexibility to be able to decide this. And from my perspective, because we are reducing or eliminating this $500 a month payment, that allows this cash flow to actually be closer to this $980 in actual. So moving back over to the debts,
So the next step here is once we've gotten everything into the right place, we've identified this line of credit as being the vehicle that we're going to use as our debt tool. And my first action is to take this dollar amount and pay it off. Then the next thing that I want to do is show them as paid off. And when I do that, let's see the last one. So once I when I yeah. So once I show them as paid off in this sheet, it's also reflected here. So the dollar amount shows as, hey, of this 49,950 in debt that I originally had, there's approximately 10,600 that has now been addressed. And so if you come over now to the how the debt tool is functioning, let's see here. Yep, we're there.
I think it'd be better if it was like smaller.
I will do what you ask.
Do you guys vote for smaller so there's
that
more
better?
you could see more?
Want it smaller than that?
Okay.
How about that? You tell me.
I don't know. Can we see it? I don't know why it's like not. Okay, I'm gonna leave.
All right.
Bye.
So again, we're in the same debts tab or debts sheet as I was educated yesterday. So we're gonna.
That's right. It's
So
a
we're still
sheet.
in the debts sheet, not tab. This is a tab.
Thank
This is
you.
the sheet. So we're still in the debt sheet. So what does it look like in month one? So again, um, this is manual. So I had to put this dollar amount in, and I think this is where people do get confused in this sheet because I'm using as my debt tool what I acknowledged as my debt tool. Let me come back over here and just bring it up again. What I acknowledged as my debt tool is this line of credit. So I designated it as the debt tool. And when I designated it as the debt tool, it then populates this dollar amount here. And again, I've already identified or I've already done the math, or it's already also populated the balance that's on that debt tool. So I didn't start out at zero. I used 10,600 of this debt tool to pay off those three credit cards. And so when you come down and you add your deposits, you add the income coming into the debt tool. It's not coming in as an expense. It's not going to make the balance larger. The income is coming in as a credit. The balance on the debt tool, the limit on the debt tool is 15,000. The current balance on the debt tool is 10,600. When I get paid for the month or when I get paid throughout the month, that income coming in is coming in as a credit, is coming in as a negative number. And when I get paid throughout the month at 4420 goes on to the debt tool, it reduces the balance, but I still have to pay bills from the debt tool. This 1975, this $600, this car note, all of these are coming straight from those other tabs. So this 1975, that's my living expenses. So if I come over here to expenses, do a quick add here. My car insurance, my utilities, my streaming service, groceries, and rent added together is 1975. So what you're seeing on that line item, as far as the living expenses, that's that $1975 amount.
Can you just show them, scroll down and show them that it does this for you? Okay. We just, for some reason, the whole screen doesn't show up when we screen shared. We didn't have time to work it out and figure out why.
Yeah, I wasn't implying that you had to add that dollar amount. I was just implying that those dollar amounts added up to the amount that's sitting in this sheet.
Yeah, they're like,
And
why
then-
would she tell us to get this spreadsheet if we have to do all this work?
Right, I agree. And then the second item being the car. So the car is coming from the debts page, debts sheet.
Yeah.
And so again, populating that $600. So again, income comes in, I'm paying my bills from the debt tool. And something that we don't traditionally talk about on this on when we're doing these lives, because we don't really have a lot of time, is the interest. I am accounting for the interest as well. And the math around how that interest was calculated, I've already done. It's the balance times the interest rate, which is 11.85%. Divide that number by 12. And so that's the amount of interest being paid that month. So that's the end of month one. Well, here comes month two. Month two, the income comes in based off the new balance of 8860. The income comes in. We're going to pay bills again. We're going to pay the car note. but notice how the interest dollar amount has gotten smaller. Why is that? It's gotten smaller because the balance is smaller. As our income goes in and our bills exit the debt tool, our cash flow, what's left over from our income, sits on that debt tool, which allows the balance to now become less. So notice that interest is getting smaller and smaller month after month. Month 3, again, same process, same approach. Nothing really changing there. I'm going to slide all the way down to month 6. Well, let me go to month 5 first. Month 5, again, same process. 40, income comes in, bills go out. Got about $35 in interest that's paid. Notice the small balance left on that line of credit. It's a $15,000 limit, but the new balance is $1,725. Why? Because my cash flow has been eating away at that balance. As I mentioned, my goal, my thoughts around velocity banking is I don't really care about those credit cards. I don't really care about paying off the car. What I care about is making sure my cash flow is eating up the room, eating up the balance on this debt tool. Because he's focusing all of his cash flow right here, he's about to pay this off. Well, rather than pay it off, my thought process was let's shift our attention to the next bill that's on his mind. What's the next bill on his mind? Well, if I've paid off these credit cards, the next bill that I need to address is this car. We started out at month 1 with a balance of $28.75. Where are we now? We are sitting at month 5. So if it's $600 a month, month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5. So that's been 5 months. 5 times $600 is $3,000. So if the original balance when we started was $28.75, and we've just paid $3,000 into that dollar amount, that means the balance on that $28.75 is just now dropped $3,000. So what I'm going to do is, in addition to the room that we've already created based off the monthly payment, I'm going to make a chunk. Where am I getting this chunk from? I'm going to make a $10,000 chunk from the line of credit onto the car. So I'm going to make a $10,000 chunk from the line of credit. Again, it's a $15,000. Let me go back up to the top. It's a $15,000 line of credit, meaning that's the limit. And we've been paying down this line of credit to the point where I only have a balance left of $1,725. So there's well over $12,000 of room on this line of credit. I could use all of the room if I wanted to, but the last thing I want to do is put him in a situation where if there's some emergency, he can't address it. So my thought process was, what if we just take $10,000? Well, when we take that $10,000 and make a chunk onto the balance of the car, it's going to reduce the balance of the car. But in addition, the balance on the debt tool goes back up. Notice I'm not even showing the car because I don't care about the car. I'm going to put $10,000 onto the principal of that car loan, and it's going to drop it down to whatever it is. Awesome. And that dollar amount happens to be is going to move it from down to about 18.4 is what I had calculated. So because the new balance is now 18,400, and the new balance on the line of credit is now 98.80, I'm now just going to go back to doing velocity banking and chunk away at this line of credit again. Again, I am not focused on the car. Once I move that $10,000 onto the balance of the car, it stays there. My objective, my goal, my focus is to make sure I get the dollar amount on this debt tool back down. So now I continue the process that I had already started. And that was income goes in, I'm going to pay expenses from, and I'm continuing to still pay the car note. I haven't paid the car off. So I'm continuing to pay my $600 a month. Notice how the interest went from $35 to now that interest, because I increased the balance on the line of credit again, the interest just went up to $98. But again, we're going to continue this path. So now we're down to, let's go to month 10. So it's been 10 months now. The balance on the line of credit is now $27.86. I'm now ready to make another chunk, make another payment. I'll call it chunk, another payment towards the car. Well, if I've gone from month, what is this? The last chunk was done in month 6. I am now in month 11. So 6 to 11, that's 5 months. That's another $3,000. So the balance has shifted another $3,000 in addition to that chunk. And so now the balance on that line of credit, when I go ahead and make another $10,000 chunk now at month 11, the balance now shifts from whatever it was down to 5,400. So again, I'm just chunking away at this debt over and over and using the same process. But again, when I make that $10,000 chunk onto the car, what happens? The balance on the debt tool increases again. And so now I'm just going to continue the same process. So how long does it take for me to pay this off? It's going to take me a total of 16 months to pay off the car, because at the 16-month mark, I'm going to then take the remaining balance of $2,400, make another chunk from my line of credit for the $2,400 as to where I am now, and pay off the car. So it took 16 months to pay off the credit cards and the car. 16 months. But then what do I have to do? If the balance is now gone back up on the line of credit, I now have to pay off the line of credit. So let me just slide over and just show you what that looked like over time. And is this too small, too big? What do you want me to do? Let me make it smaller for now so we can see it. Ultimately,
Okay, well, you could make it bigger. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I'm here to please, sweetheart.
Yeah. If you vote for bigger, just put it in the chat.
And that's about the best that I can do.
Okay, that's good. All right.
But the
then.
bottom line is we started with a balance on that line of credit. And I know this is difficult to see, but we started with the balance on that line of credit about $10,600. We paid down that $10,600 to a point where by the time I put my income in and I chunked away at another debt, it brought the balance back up. And then now from here, I'm actually starting to pay off the car. So that was the first chunk that I made towards the car. The second chunk I made towards the car. The third chunk I made towards the car, which was about $2,400 or something like that, whatever that math was. And then ultimately it took me a total of about 18 months to pay off both the car and the line of credit. So in about 17 months or so, hold on, let me slide back over here. So in about 17 months or so, make this a little bit bigger. It took me about 17 months to pay off almost $40,000 in debt. Again, he's 29 years of age, 17 months. So he's maybe he's headed into 31. So he's still 30 years old. So in roughly, if we're talking compound cycles, he didn't really lose many compound cycles because it took him a little bit over a year to be able to, a year and a half, let's just call it, to pay off this debt. So it took him about 16 months to pay off, was that $40,000 in debt. And as of today, he is in month 3, as of today. So as of today, he has made that first chunk, which was paying off the credit cards, and he is sitting somewhere around here. And the last conversation I had was around, he didn't realize the impact the interest was going to have, meaning the interest is continuing to get smaller, which means he has more cash flow, which allows him to do what?
Take more ladies out.
That's it. Have a good time. It allows him the flexibility and room to go live his life.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like he's drowning. He doesn't feel like this weight is on his shoulders, because he has the ability to fill up his tank on a Wednesday instead of waiting till he gets paid on Friday.
Yeah.
Right?
Kick it with a full tank of gas.
Yep. So if you want, sweetheart, you can slide back over to the vibe board.
Oh, okay. Where are we at?
Stop sharing.
Look at all that magic.
Here we go.
Boop. There you are.
Cancel that. All right. And so the only other thing I wanted to mention here was, as I mentioned I kind of gave this answer at the end, when it's all said and done, he will end up with cash flow of about $2,340 when all of this is done. And you guys know me. I focus less on debt. My real question was, because what we didn't get into in this conversation was, what's his goal? Because it sounds like his goal was to pay off debt. But the more we talk, the more we peel back layers, his goal isn't to just simply pay off debt. He's 29 years of age. But the last thing he wants to do is wait till 65 when some company is going to tell him he can retire. So his true goal was to simply retire early. And what this process has done for him is it has put him in a position to where, you know what he has now? He has a vehicle because once those debts are paid off, not only is his cash flow 2340, he's got a line of credit that's free and clear. He's got a line of credit sitting with $15,000 of room. And so what we talked about doing, sweetheart, if you slide over to the vibe board, I'm sorry, so over to the calculator. So what we talked about doing is, what does that look like if he were to get that money compounding, if he was to get some portion of those funds compounding? And there's many ways to approach this. I gave him about 3 or 4 different scenarios, and I'll walk through a couple of them with you. So again, he's 30 years of age. Get to it. He's 30 years of age. He wants to retire early, so I highlighted 55. If he's got 2340 in cash flow every month, would it be possible to put away $1,000 a month? And again, put away $1,000 a month and still be able to live his life. Put away $1,000 a month and still be able to take the ladies out or whatever it is he wants to do. There is no reason why he wouldn't have $1,000 a month available to him to go be able to do everything he wants to do and still be able to have a vehicle available to him to leverage and do whatever he wants when he wants. And so if he were to just simply do that, $1,000 a month for the next 25 years, it would put him in a position to where by age 55, he would have $95,000 tax free for the rest of his life. He'd have liquid cash value or available funds to be able to leverage, build his dream house, put his kids through college, whatever that situation might be, of about $968,000 available. He would actually be buying life insurance of about $516,000. So if something were to happen to him, there's a death benefit payout. And if he were to pass somewhere around that age 55, he'd be leaving to his beneficiaries about $3 million in death benefit. So it's not that I don't agree with the Roth IRA that he was putting that $500 a month away into. Because let's say instead of the $1,000, what if he just continued the $500 a month into his Roth IRA? Because that's tax-free as well, right? Well, notice this accounts for that too. If he just simply took that, he just started up his payments back in his Roth IRA. Oh, I didn't go down enough. Let me do that. If he just simply continued the contributions of the $500 a month into a Roth IRA, the same $500 a month, nothing different, he would have in his Roth IRA by the age of 55 about $500,000. Not bad. Compared to this vehicle at age 55, again, same $500 a month, it's only $484. So he'd have more in his Roth IRA. If he had a financial advisor, his financial advisor would be saying, hey, look at this $510,000 you have in this Roth IRA. This policy over here can't compare. This leveraged IUL, like who would want that? Until he says, but my objective is to retire early. My objective is to not have to allow my job to tell me when it's okay for me to leave. I'm now 55 years of age. I've got $500,000 in my Roth IRA. And we're not even talking about the fact that that Roth IRA only equates to $20,000 in tax-free income. Let's not even talk about that. He's 55. He's 55 with a Roth IRA. Who can retire at 55 and leverage any of their money in their Roth IRA?
Right.
The answer is no one. So if the objective, if the true goal, again, because I didn't mention this earlier and it was intentional. When we start peeling back the layers and identifying what the true goal is, if the true goal is to retire early, the first question to answer is, what vehicle is going to allow you to do that? Is a Roth IRA going to allow you to retire early? The answer is no. So if it's not, is there another vehicle out there? And if we just simply apply the same $500 a month into a Roth IRA, yeah, it will produce more net worth for you compared to a cash value life insurance policy that's properly structured. But will it produce more income? And not only will it produce more income, would you even be able to access that income when you accumulate it? And that's what this vehicle does. So it gives him a $47,000 tax-free income using the exact same $500 a month without even leveraging the line of credit, without even leveraging the cash flow that he's created. Sound like you want to say something, sweetheart. Go ahead.
No, I've been wanting to say a lot of things.
I know you.
Okay. One is we have some questions, so I don't want them to wait too long and get off the topic of velocity banking. But this is why the topic of velocity banking is so important, because it's leverage. Before we answer these questions, because we will, and I promise I value your time, I just want to throw this in while we're here. There's a couple of things here. One is, what would he have done after, let's say, great, you taught him how to pay off all of his debt that he currently has. Not that he won't accumulate debt over the years, right? But you've taught
It's
him
a
how
new
to,
car now, right? I just paid it off. Now I need another one, right?
right, sure. Whatever it is, right? It could be a medical bill. God forbid, gosh, why did I come up with that? Trauma. Okay. It could be anything though. It could be, that he is moving in the traditional ways. Here's why I'm bringing this up. Okay, squirrel, back on. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because what would he have traditionally done? You taught him how to pay off all that debt, almost $30,000 in debt in 16, 17 months, right? Now it's gone, 40. Okay, it's a lot. Can you let me make my point, bro? The point that I'm trying to make is that if he would have been done in 16, 17 months, now he's done, now he has more cash flow, right? Okay, cool. Check that box. What he's going to do with that cash flow, though, traditionally, what people would do is say, if he's talking to his parents, if he's talking to his Uncle Charlie, he's talking to people who want to give him all the advice, they want to, help him move the boat faster.
Right.
What are they going to tell him? Because anybody watching, what would you tell somebody in this position?
Right.
Say,
You just
good exercise.
freed up. You've got a $15,000 line of credit available to you. You've got cash flow that can pay it off quickly. What do most people do?
Right. In this moment, he's got this win, but he doesn't really have all the wins because he's still renting, right? There's a lot of other things like goals that he probably has like on his board at some point. This is my point. So if his goal is to purchase a house, now he's going to need a down payment. Now he's going to need to have leverage in his credit and position and his income and all the things, right? So naturally, what a lot of people would do is start saving up for the down payment, right? To put themselves in the position. How long would it take him to save up enough to have a down payment in this market? So let's say it's $20,000 minimum he would need to have in order to purchase something. And I know that location matters, market conditions matter based on where you are. We already went through that the average price of a home in 2024 is nationally is $400,000. Okay. So we're just going to use that number and we're just going to say you're going to need to have at least 20% if you first time buyer, whatever, cover all of the costs. Maybe that would be enough, right?
And just so I'm clear, when would he have leverageable $20,000 to be able to apply? Or go ahead.
No, he's saving his money. So he's putting the $1,000 a month. Remember, Uncle Charlie's telling him what to do. So traditionally, put the $1,000, at least $1,000 that he would be putting into savings a month to get this house, right? Why would you do anything else with it? I can hear anybody's giving this advice. Okay. So 30 to 35, how much has he saved? So if he were to have spent the money, so really it's $12,000 a year, right?
That is correct.
So yeah, so it would take him 2 years to save up that money. But here's my point. Even in the event that he were to do that, then he puts the money in the house and he spends the money. Now it's locked up in this prison of promises, right? That we enter into, which is called a mortgage. So that money's gone. Now he's got to start over if he wants to do anything else. Or then he says, I'm going to pay extra on the mortgage and now I'm going to pay that off, right? Because that becomes people's goal. But if he's able to, in 5 years, leverage something that continues to grow, that's a benefit because he can continue to leverage that over and over again as it becomes his own bank. I'm trying to make my point so we can get to the questions. The other point of this is he doesn't have anything in place. The IRA, the cash flow, the savings, none of it will come in handy if he is unable to work for any reason. He, she, they does not matter for anyone who is unable to work. We've seen this happen far too many times just in the last span of years, right? Where people are in a position where what leverage do they have? A lot of them were led to cash out their 401ks and take penalties and tax hits just to be able to liquidate. They're not leveraging at that point, to utilize assets that are available to them whichever way they can. So when you have something else in place that is more flexible, it's more malleable, depending on what it is you're going through, no one has to tell you that qualifies for you to be able to use it. You don't need anyone else's permission. It could be to put a new deck in your backyard. It doesn't have to qualify for what they deem as an event to give you permission, I guess is my point that I wanted to make. Okay. So I want to move on to the questions now. Is that okay with you?
Rock on.
Okay. Okay, Kent says, what if your debt tool isn't large enough to cover all of your debt and bills? I love this question because we get it often. A lot of people are stuck, and we show it this way too. So we're contributing to the problem. It just makes it easier to show it this way. But what if somebody can't pay all of their bills from their debt tool? Donnell?
Right. How about this? Not only can you not pay all of your bills from your debt tool, but what if you also can't pay a certain bill from the debt tool? Because to me, it's all the same. And that is, it may mean that you may need to continue paying some of your bills from your checking account. And that's okay. Meaning, I assume you have enough to pay your bills. And you may need to leave some of that cash flow sitting in your checking account to address those. And the remaining plus the cash flow is sitting on the debt tool. Again, from my perspective, and I don't know that others speak this way, from my perspective, velocity banking is only about the debt tool. So using this example, or using today's example, let's say he had a debt tool that only had a limit of $2,000. His income was $4,420. Then what we would do is whatever portion of that $4,420 that needed to be paid from his normal checking account, then we pay it. The key is the cash flow. If the cash flow is $980, I want all $980 of that cash flow to be going towards that $2,000 line of credit, paying down the balance on that line of credit. When I get that line of credit down to zero, what am I going to do? I'm going to take a $2,000 chunk and put it towards another debt. I'm going to take a $2,000 chunk and put it towards a credit card because maybe I didn't pay all the credit cards off at the start. I just simply ran my expenses, as many expenses as I could, through that line of credit to allow my cash flow to sit on that line of credit. And then I chunked away at those debts as I needed to from that line of credit. So it's okay if you don't have the room. It just means that maybe you continue to use your checking account to make payments from most. The key is the cash flow. Where does the cash flow live? You want the cash flow to live on the debt tool.
Yep. Okay. Damon says, should all income go to bank with the debt tool, or is it okay to make a transfer from another bank to the debt tool?
So the idea behind velocity banking is your cash flow living on the debt tool. So in your situation, should all income go to the bank with the debt tool? The key is the cash flow. So if the second bank that you're referencing is holding some of your cash flow, and the first bank that you're referencing is holding some of your cash flow, from my perspective, I want all of the cash flow to drive down the balance of the debt tool. So that's my main objective. So which bank you use or where your debt tool is or isn't located is less of a concern for me. It's just making sure that all of your cash flow is pointed towards the right direction. At least that's kind of my thought on it. Go ahead.
I'd just like to add that I think sometimes it can matter where your debt tool is or what vendor it belongs to. For instance, if you bank with Bank of America and you have a Bank of America credit card that you're using as a debt tool or line of credit or HELOC or whatever, and it's with Bank of America, there can be a lot of benefits to using and keeping all the money in house so that they can see the the trail, right? The paper trail. There's also, points and things like that. And when I say points, there's a lot of things that don't qualify for points, like making a payment to another credit card. Even if you could, that still may not qualify for points, right? There are certain purchases that don't, but just think of the amount of money that you're spending in eating alone. Eating, traveling, so gas, anything like that will get you points. If you are looking at, I'm going to be doing this for a while, this is becoming a lifestyle for me, then you may want to start looking at what tools you're using and have available to you so that you can increase what those benefits are. What's wrong with doing, if you're going to eat the same, if you're going to put the same amount of gas in your car and you're going to make the same purchases every month, why not switch from getting 2 points for every dollar to 7 points for some of those dollars, right? So we've benefited greatly from just that alone. And a lot of it wasn't even intentional. We weren't minding like, oh no, we got to use this card for this or that. Wasn't even that. It was like one card is connected to the Amazon. One was what you usually pay for gas. And I don't even drive anymore. So there's not separate expenses going out, right? Because I'm not going to the store anymore. So we usually are using the same cards for everything because we're going together now. And he pays. So I just think it makes it easier that way for us to track stuff. But before, I was going to the store myself, right? So I had my own set of cards and whatnot and accounts, and we had to have those conversations. Just laying it, like throwing spaghetti on the wall, essentially, not paying attention to points, because in the beginning, that really didn't matter to us as much as just like surviving with a big family and sports and everything else that was going on, right? Even that, we still had at least a solid week of vacation for free every single year, just off of food, gas, and whatever else it was, right? I think one time you looked and you're like, oh, wow, 3 of these plane tickets could be with the points, right? We were just like, okay, we'll take it. Like, why wouldn't you, right? But if we were using our debit card, we wouldn't get any of those benefits at all. So, to the questions of, like, if my debt tool isn't big enough to be able to put these on there, you might also want to think about, you might be able to have more room than you think. If you get paid once a week, that balance is going to come down. You're going to be paying things and treating it like a debit card, right? If you are getting paid twice a month, same thing. So you may be able to actually utilize more space on there. You're utilizing technically more than is available, but it's because you're paying it off with your next paycheck that they don't see it that way. And also, you're not being charged the interest. Even though you're using more credit, you're not being charged the interest, and you get to keep the points and all the benefits, the perks. So these are great questions, by the way, and they're frequently asked questions. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time to put it in the chat. Okay, Teresa says, I get paid monthly. Several of my bills are due within a week after I get paid. Should I still put the entire check on the debt tool and then pay bills, or pay the immediate bills first?
Yeah, being paid monthly is tough because it's almost like you either need to get a month ahead or you're always a month behind. And I think for some of those bills that you can adjust the due date, maybe first starting there. But I think it's almost like you have to build up a reserve, and that's where the debt tool matters. Like in this situation, let's say this gentleman only got paid monthly. Because he's got a debt tool with room, it won't even matter. Because when the income comes in, it will immediately knock down the balance, even though for the last 29 days or 28 days, it may have looked, I'll call it, he may have been accruing interest at a higher rate until that income finally went in to knock that balance down, right? So that's where, identifying the debt tool, I think, kind of plays a much larger role in this process. But I would say identifying what day your bills are due and being a bit more strategic on how and when those bills are paid, because there's a I'll call it a secondary strategy in here as well. I've got clients who, and I used to do this, by the way, I've got clients who, they get paid on a monthly basis. So maybe they actually pay their bills using a credit card. And then once they get paid at that end of the month or wherever that portion is, that date is in the month, then they
pay off that entire credit card once that income comes in, but they're not, I'll call it impacted negatively because they're using a credit card to kind of capture all of those expense payments that are happening throughout the month. So that's where I would call it a more of a secondary strategy in addition to velocity banking. I'm calling it a little bit more advanced as well. I've got clients who they use a line of credit as their debt tool, and they use a credit card to capture all of their bills, and then they use the line of credit to pay off the credit. They use the line of credit to pay off the credit cards once per month. So I think that's a little bit more of an advanced strategy. We can kind of walk through an example like that at some point if we would like, but that's kind of how I would approach that.
Okay, and so for Lucinda's question, I wanted to come back here because it's about this plan, and she's wanting to know, is that a tax-free income or a loan?
So let me show the
Is that
income.
tax-free income a loan? That's what she said.
So
Sound it
this
out.
is a cash value life insurance policy. It's a properly designed IUL with leverage. It's a premium finance strategy. Whole lot of words, no definition. But the short answer to your question is this is a life insurance policy. So the income that is being generated is a borrowed or leveraged amount. What makes it tax free? Well, it's because you're not actually withdrawing this $95,000 a year. That is not a withdrawal. But if you notice the correlation between this number and this number, again, this number and this number, this is approximately 10% of this number. And because this is approximately 10%, what this is saying is that $968,000 is making on average somewhere around 13, 14, 15, 16, up to 22%. So think about it. If this number is making 13%, but you borrowed 10%, you borrowed less than this dollar amount is actually making, because your next concern will be, well, if it's a borrowed dollar amount, don't I have to pay that back? Well, notice if you're making 13%, but you borrowed 10, you're actually borrowing less than you actually made, which means that there's not a dollar amount to pay back, because every time you made 13%, you paid off the 10 that you borrowed. So, but yes, this is a leveraged or borrowed amount, different from an IRA or 401k. Because again, notice two different dollar amounts, much larger and tax free, but this dollar amount is a lot smaller. Why? Why is the income generated from traditional retirement accounts so much less? Well, it's based off this thing called the 4% rule. And it's because this 40,000 isn't a leveraged dollar amount. It isn't a borrowed dollar amount. It's a withdrawal. So you're withdrawing 4% so that you don't run out of money, run out of income in retirement. That dollar amount that you're withdrawing out of this $1 million has to be replenished by the growth. And all of the financial institutions have determined that the maximum that you can withdraw out of this dollar amount is 4%, because on average, your account makes somewhere between 7 to 8%. So if you're making 7 to 8, you're withdrawing 4, you're replenishing 4 every year, which means it prevents you from running out of money. I answer questions you didn't ask.
You are really good at that. But I do think it's helpful because sometimes we just don't know what questions to ask, right? That can make it hard too. Risha had a really good question in here, and so if
Excited.
they deleted it though, so it got
What?
deleted. Yeah, so
Did I already answer it or something?
No.
Was she talking about my non-connecting? Like she over there making jokes and she deleted it because she didn't want
Okay,
to.
here. It's back at the game. Okay. I don't think half of our viewers were
See?
here when all of that
I know,
happened.
I know.
So I think you're in the clear.
That was for the family. No, Rob. I
Yeah,
see
that was
Rob
for
in there.
the-
Rob's
that was
in
for the
there.
family's been
That was
here,
for the
yeah.
family.
What is the most what is the most effective way to track variable expenses such as gas, food, spending money for my son when he travels, when all the income is on the debt tool? Oh, well,
Go ahead, sweetheart.
okay. So for
Hi.
what we used to use was like the Mint app, right? So it wouldn't
Knew
matter
that's where
what
you
you
were
pay.
headed. Yep.
I tried to get the whole family to use this app, and they were just like, "You and these apps." Like I was living in the world in the year 3000 with apps. now we don't have Mint anymore, right? But there are a lot of different ones. And I've been looking into like, what am I going to replace Mint with? Because I just really love to see the budgeting, and I'm looking for something for them to learn how to budget. And I loved how visual everything was. I thought the UI was great. The best way that you could effectively track that is to use an app like that. So it doesn't matter what you're actually paying it with, because you can still connect that payment no matter what it's on. If you're paying with your credit card, if you're paying with a debit card, and you are going to gas stations, it's going to log that as an as gas, right? As a traveling expense or whatnot. So you would still be able to track that. The cool part is, though, if you have like a card for your kid and they're traveling, then you can assign that expense, anything that comes from that card, as an expense for him, however you wanted to categorize that, even for your taxes, right? We're using QuickBooks right now for
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think there's a wide range of answers here. I think personally, yeah, yes, because I think we have so many different businesses and things going in. Like there's so many moving parts that we
yeah.
are using QuickBooks to be able to account. And I'll be honest, I don't know that I'm doing a great job at it, but QuickBooks does allow you to be able to account for all of those transactions on a pretty consistent basis. But I'll be honest, this is
Y'all,
my
he still
QuickBooks.
sends people checks,
This
and
is my QuickBooks. I'm sorry. I am manually writing stuff down. I just paid bills yesterday, and if I opened up that book, you will see every handwritten line item in addition to QuickBooks. So
well, let me play you a little music for you in your notebook.
that's right. We do. We got a thing. We do have a thing.
You in this notebook just getting intimate once a month, once or twice.
Actually,
Once,
twice a month.
twice. Ooh. All
I
right.
am well
Shout out,
taken care of.
shout out to all those who are still using trusty notebook. Well, you got to respect it, whatever the process is, right? It's the result that matters, and that's why we like that phrase. There are many ways to 10. While I am very digital and I use a lot of apps, I still write. I still use notepads to write notes down so I don't forget to do stuff. Like, I get it that there's a lot of apps that do that, but if it's out of sight, out of mind for me. So everybody's different, right? In different ways. The result is what matters. Yeah, I honestly, she says, Feather says she actually hires someone. Hold on, let me get to her. That wasn't it. Simplify is nice. I loved Mint too. Why'd they go? I actually hire people for QuickBooks and other Intuit products. Yeah. It's always good to have a CPA or somebody else who can look over your stuff, but just being able to categorize things if you have a business, so you can write, have your taxes prepared and stay organized. But for like your own personal stuff, on the personal side of things, I have not found anything that looks and feels like the Mint app did. Rocket Money seems to be like the closest thing, but there are so many things out there. While we're talking about apps and softwares and things like that to help you along your journey, there are a lot of people who are talking about a software called MoneyMax that's supposed to be an automated velocity banking system. We went and looked into this because if it was something that was going to help the community, right? This was a great tool. We wanted to know what it was. This thing is $4,000, and the majority of reviews that we found online was that people had used it for the first few months. They were enthusiastic. They went and left a review. They were excited about what it was they were going to do. And then life started lifing, and they just didn't use it anymore because it doesn't automate things for you, doesn't make payments for you, it doesn't do any of those things. It tells you what to pay. The problem with this is that it's almost crippling the user, right? Because they're not understanding how to leverage their or utilize their leverage. They are just learning how to follow steps somebody else told them to do. So they don't really, most people wouldn't know if it was right or if it was wrong. You can learn this. Anybody can learn to do this. The most important part, though, is understanding leverage, because while it's really fun to get focused on how much debt you can reduce in a short period of time, The most important thing is that you are able to have enough when the debt is gone. You can be broke and debt free at the same time. And that's why we do not focus on just becoming debt free. Velocity banking is not a this or that. Velocity banking is part of our this and that happening at the same time, reducing debt and building wealth simultaneously. So that's why we want to see even Feather is in here. I can't even. And then somebody recorded their calls and let us listen to what that sales call and process look like. What I'm gonna say is you may not find things that are unfavorable out here, and it's because there are they've casted out a lot of lawsuits to real people's personal experiences off the internet, including suing Reddit. to I don't know. I don't want to say a bunch of stuff and then we get looped into it, but I will say that you don't need it. How about that? We can say you don't need to buy a $4,000 piece of software to do this for you.
So I think we started this channel with this foundation. Like there are things that we have to purchase, right? There are things that require a cost. One of them shouldn't be education. And to me, once you learn how velocity banking works, once you get fully educated on how it works, again, understanding the goal, understanding the steps, understanding the vehicles you can use, then it just becomes a mathematical equation. And it shouldn't cost for you to learn. We give this information away. If you are running now, I get it that we might have to have there might have to be some type of consultation. And there are some people out here that might be their livelihood, meaning their sole source of income is them meeting with you. So therefore, there may be a cost to that. I get it.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, when it's about education, it shouldn't cost. It's just information. Now, what you do with that information is up to you. And if you think some program is going to pay your bill for you, it's not going to happen. So once you understand how this process works, why do I need some system, some automated system that I still have to manually do anyway? I may as well just manually do it. But I think can become overwhelming. And I think velocity banking, I still view it as a fad because there are a lot of people who are pushing this money max or pushing these different vehicles and tools that they want you to buy. So for the sole purpose of, I'll call it paying them off versus truly helping you. Velocity banking to me is really just about the debt tool. So if you understand what vehicle you're going to use to crush debt, then the next question is, can you get multiple uses out of the same dollar? If you can get multiple uses out of the same dollar, your cash flow immediately increases just for that fact in general. Where do I need something automated? Because it's about then focusing on paying your debts as normal. You're doing it today. It's just that as of right now, your cash flow is doing this. The
Yeah.
idea behind velocity banking is we're going to focus that cash flow in one direction and address one thing at a time. Okay, I've addressed that one thing. Now I'm going to move over to this next thing. Where's the automation required? It's not. It's just someone trying to get rich off you. And that's the sadness about this system that we tend to be in. So whether we're talking banking, where we're talking mortgage and lending, or we're talking insurance, you name it, there are these vultures around here that they want to gatekeep this information, when that to me is the tragedy or the travesty. And the idea is, hey, let's share this information, because the more you get, the more you understand. Like the question around, is this income a borrowed dollar amount, which almost seems like that should be taboo. But when you understand how insurance companies work and how banks work, everyone focuses or functions based off leveraged dollars. So why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't the expenses or the money that you spend on expenses be made from a leveraged dollar? That's how Warren Buffett doesn't have to pay taxes, or that's how he pays less taxes than his secretary. It's because he learned how to use leveraged dollar. What system did he have to buy for $4,000 to learn how to use a leveraged dollar? Like, that's the part that, like, it really irritates me, because it really starts with education. Once we get it, once you see how these systems and function, you can be those systems. So you don't have to buy them.
You just that's a super segue into what I was going to say. It's one is passing over dollars to pick up pennies. There seems to be a lot of that in this community, but really high focus on interest that wouldn't matter because the amount of interest that you're saving would not compare to the amount of wealth that you missed out on building. That's the saddest thing in this community that I've seen. And they can't talk about wealth building because they haven't built wealth, right? They can't talk about wealth building because they are not in a position to do so. They can only talk about the things that they sell, right? And so there's a lot of people like that, and I'm not hating on that. It's just that either that's for you to participate in that or it's not. What I really would hope out of this community is that we would see a lot more each one teach one. So should information not be sold? Well, it is. So we had to, when we were just getting started, we had to pay for information. You paid for information I would never have paid for. Let's be really clear here, guys. I would have never have paid for this stuff. No. Mm-mm. He came in and he was like, I just bought this thing, this book, whatever it was, the whole thing. This is how much it was. And I was like, we could have done what, do you know the list of stuff we could have done with that money? Like, why would you do that? And he didn't talk to me and he's like, well, here's the thing. Can't really talk to you about this stuff because you're kind of closed-minded about this. And I have a vision and I know that this is going to work. I have confidence. This was not a risk purchase. Let me show you. And I said, do you, boo, show me the results. And I believe in you. The amount of confidence that you have right now has me wondering now what it is I'm missing. That was, I think, a pivoting moment for me. It wasn't until he really started to break it down for me, showing me the proof, that I was like, whoa, okay, maybe now I understand. I wasn't even willing to listen because I was so caught up in the surface math of you spent what getting information to do what? How do you even know this stuff works, right? We made a vow at that moment that everything we were learning that was being gatekept by people, they don't own this information. First and foremost, it's not their information. So it's not like it's intellectual property or something, right? It's just information that others go, oh, I could sell this too. And then they start selling this information. We just decided that this was something that should have been taught in schools. This is something that should be like across America, wherever else you can use it too. But we know for sure what we're talking about applies to the American economy. So we just wanted to be able to empower others. Then it becomes each one teach one. Now you go out there and you empower more people. There are people in our community right now who are already holding groups and spaces, and they have holding classes in their churches or in their communities or wherever it is to share this information like it's the new gospel, right? To share this information with everybody. The biggest message of it, though, is the turn to your neighbor and tell them that velocity banking is not a wealth building strategy. And I love that because the worst thing that we could do is wake up at 60, 62 years old, whenever it is, right? 59 and a half. And that's the day that you learn that not only do you not have enough to retire, you are not safeguarded from inflation, and you can't stop working. You wouldn't ever be able to stop working because you don't have enough. Or have been listening to somebody who told you that just focus on paying off the house because that's going to be such a win, only to find out that on the day that you paid off the house, you had no income coming in. So although you may not have had to have income going out to make the payment, you still had no income coming in. And by that time, imagine how much eggs would be then, right? It's not enough to subscribe to these ideas anymore. They just do not apply. We live in a different world. In 1970, paying off your house early was a vibe. In 1980, paying off your house early was still goals. At some point, it became that this is not possible, especially with market conditions, especially with market volatility, not knowing what the risks are if you have all your money locked up and then you have to liquidate. You have to liquidate at the bottom of a market. You have to liquidate in a very unfavorable environment. That is not okay. But a lot of people are waiting for people who are subscribed to that to have to be in those positions because that's when they win, right? That's their industry. I could go on for a long time about this, so I'll just stop there. But what I hope is that we start to change, and it is less about profiting off of people needing help, and that we are able to form communities that really do lift each other up, form communities that are not false in how we're lifting each other up. I think if you are, nope, not going to say it. That's it. Woosah. All right. Lots of comments in here since I've been ranting on here. Yes. Sequia said, hold on, guys. You know I got to find stuff. Wealthy people are not debt free. They use leverage to get more assets and have more cash flow. You wouldn't want to be debt free, by the way. And if you're paying attention to what's happening right now, you absolutely would not want to be debt free and broke, right? You need to know where your leverage is, and you need to know how to increase your leverage so that in a whim you could use that. Also, so that you don't have any gatekeepers. There's nobody who has to give you permission to be able to access your assets. That's going to be a problem for some people when they go to try to make a move and they're told, you know what, the rules changed and we're the rule makers. We get to say that. We get to do that. When you become your own bank and you truly are in a position to take full control and you have control, there is no one who, other than the law saying that this is illegal, right? There's nobody else who gets to decide for you that what your options are. This doesn't happen. Not only is it empowering, but it's important because life happens. What's going on in your life should not be up to somebody else if you should be able to qualify to get yourself out of a situation or get yourself into a better situation, right? And I think it could go both ways, but leverage and control is where we should be moving towards.
I agree. So here I
Mic
grabbed this
drop.
one. I don't know if you saw that one or not, but so it's important to track my budget to prevent from inflating my debt tool. And I think what I appreciate about this question, because I actually get this a lot as well. What causes your debt tool to inflate or increase? It would be if you have a debt tool that is at interest rate X and your cash flow isn't sufficient enough to be able to keep that balance from continuing to increase, then I think that has more of an impact on the debt tool. I'll call it inflating. So it's more about the cash flow, but is tracking your expenses and having a budget. That's a part of the discipline of this process in general. So I think that's an absolute yes. That tracking your expenses and having a budget around what is going into the debt tool and what's coming out is absolutely important. But if cash flow isn't sufficient enough to reduce the amount of interest being paid on the tool and allow you to create room to increase your cash flow, maybe having a debt tool or having that specific debt tool is not the right approach. And here's what I
Yeah.
mean. I get a lot of calls about velocity banking. I have a lot of conversations about velocity banking, but there's a fair amount of those conversations that transition into maybe we shouldn't be doing velocity banking. And when I say that, I mean having a debt tool that you're driving income through. Maybe we should be leveraging or using debt snowball or debt avalanche. And to me, that's still velocity banking because ultimately what you're doing is instead of your income coming in and your income going out to pay bills,
debt snowball to me is still focusing on one debt at a time, and that cash flow being focused on paying off that debt so that you can increase your cash flow so that you can put yourself in a better credit worthy position so that you can then maybe have access to or be able to have a debt tool that will allow you to put your cash flow in a position so you're not impacted by things like that. So when I hear about,
My bad. I thought you were
you're good.
done.
But when I hear about debt tools that my cash flow is causing my debt tool to continue to increase, maybe we need to step back and understand what your true cash flow is, and maybe using a debt tool may not be the path we want to go down. So go ahead,
Yeah.
sweetheart. I'm sorry.
And either way you go, even on this workbook, you could have a separate tab that each month you're just adding a new tab. If you had some way of tracking that and you wanted to be able to do that, you could do that here, and then we can connect it for you. I have no problem doing that or adding that type of function to it. Of course, it doesn't update for everybody, but let us know. Reach out. Let us know if you have a unique need like that. Might be interesting. More people might. Even if you're using Debt Snowball, you can still use this worksheet for that because you get to input. We purposely did not attach all of the incomes for each month, like on the debt tool sheet, to auto populate because it's going to change all the time. So that is something that you have to manually put in, and you'll be able to do that. But I agree with you. If you're worried that you might max out your debt tool, then it probably sounds like you need to either get on the call and understand maybe there's a different way of doing this. It's a free consultation, by the way. We have it for free for all the reasons that we just listed. It's free. Everyone should have access to this information and help to be able to employ it. It's hard sometimes to interpret your situation, or sometimes people just want to throw theirs, like, this is what I would do, Donnell, and then ask if there's any crumbs that they left, or if you would do anything different, right? They just need the confirmation sometimes, or they're looking for, like, you be devil's advocate and pick this apart and tell me what I'm missing or how I could do this different that I'm not seeing, right? So this is how you get it. Go to,
Yeah, it was just up.
you had it?
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. Go to selfdirected.info/live, and then you'll see the workbook there. There's a button. You click on that button, and it will take you to the Velocity Banking page where you have all of the information there. We are working right now on a series so that we can upload some of the sections from our live streams to put them in order to help with, like, this is for beginners, this is for advanced, type of playlists in there, like a resource library or something. We've heard your cries, and your feedback has been so meaningful and productive for us anyway. We've been back here busy working, so it does not fall on deaf ears. That's the saying, right?
Yep.
Okay, Washika Jackson says, would you take $3,000 every 2 months from your Roth IRA as long as you can pay it back within the 60 days with your cash flow in order to pay the credit card down?
So you didn't ask me this. So can you do it? Yeah, you can. But you asked me, would you? I'm going to say it depends. I have run into some situations with some clients where, you know what, we may have to get creative.
Wait,
So there may be some creative actions you can take with your Roth IRA because, and for those of you who may not know, when you're contributing to a Roth IRA, you're contributing after tax dollars. And so you actually have the ability to take out those basis dollars that you've put in penalty free, tax free. It's almost like a backdoor ATM that you're able to leverage and or use your Roth IRA. So is there, or would there, or are there, or have there been scenarios where that might make sense? Um, I'm running in my mind. I'm running through a few scenarios where I've had clients where we had to become strategic. I think for you specifically, though, I think it really depends on your goal. Like, what's the objective? What's the point? What's the goal? I get it. There's some debts that need to be paid off, but maybe getting multiple uses
out of the same dollar might help you accomplish the same goal. So I think the best thing that you could probably do is let's kind of understand your numbers, and maybe we jump on a call and have a conversation. Because I don't think for this question, there's a definite yay or nay or yes or no that would make sense. I can say that there may be moments where we need to become a little bit more strategic with being able to address debt.
Yeah, one of those things is like what are your monthly contributions into that Roth IRA currently? Does that belong to a previous employer? And you're not actively contributing to it. And so it's just sitting there and you're going, I could be leveraging that. There's a lot of different ways that this could be structured for you that you go, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Or there could be some strategies where we realize, well, if it's a Roth IRA, you're paying after-tax dollars anyway. And so maybe there's just an opportunity here to pause and reallocate those funds and be more impactful.
And that was kind of my thought. It was, if I got a Roth IRA and I'm taking money out of it, why wouldn't I just stop putting money in it and just use those? Because it's the same dollar. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're on the same page there. So
Yeah. And you know what would be really fun is if we could workshop these types of ideas inside of our Facebook group, which by the way, you can get access to by going to the same place. Here we are, selfdirected.info/live. And we can start to workshop these examples. I love it when people post in there and they're going, okay, this is how it makes sense to me. And I'm really struggling with, I think in some groups you can get kicked out for challenging or seeming like it's uncomfortable information, or I'm not getting it. I don't get it. If you don't get it, we want to know, because that gives us an opportunity to help more people, right? So maybe you see something that we don't, or see it from a perspective that we just haven't yet. And it's all very helpful. I like people who jump down the rabbit holes and are willing to learn and want to learn. I really appreciate people like that, because I'm like that. I want to be confident about what it is that I'm doing. And if I can't be, I'm quick to just say, I don't have the time to go down the rabbit hole in the way that I would need to. That obviously would have meant that we would have missed out on one of the greatest opportunities that we had to change the entire trajectory of our family for generations to come. This has changed for us in the last 5 or 6 years. We didn't start when we were 30. Wish we could have. Wish that could be our story, but it wasn't. We started as soon as we could, and we got the information trickled along the way. We couldn't even strategize this because we didn't have access to all this information at once. You guys do, though. You have access to it all right now, and you don't have to wait to get started. That's our gift, right? That's the way that we can serve, and we can make sure that we have more people who had stories like ours can realize or stories like ours was, to now realize and have an achieve story like we have now. For us, that included some severe health issues that I was battling and still, somewhat still battle. Not having access to not just quality medical care, because I'm going to tell you right now, the Mayo Clinic is said to be like the highest quality of doctors, right? Like that's the cream of the crop. We had insurance because you're working at a corporate job. So we had really great insurance. It wasn't even about that. It was that we were subscribed to so many traditional ideas that were never going to serve us, all of them. And we just kept doing it because it was easier to make those decisions because they were just already in place than to push back and to really wipe the slate clean and say, what is it that we want to do and what is best for us? That's essentially what we had to do. It was really uncomfortable conversations with family, uncomfortable conversations with each other. We've grown closer together. In moments we've grown farther apart. Personal growth is a personal journey, but I'm here for it. I would not take any of it back. It is worth it. I think more people could be open to starting this journey, not because it's easy, but because it's about the result, right? The result is far more richer, not just in dollars and cents. In the entire experience, it's far more richer. I don't know anybody when I was growing up who could make the claims that I can make today, and I didn't think that it was possible. I thought you had to be rich in order to sleep at night knowing that everything was going to be okay no matter what. I had no idea that that could be on my horizon unless I somehow struck the lottery, right? That's part of my story. And I think financial freedom is different than financial security. And I didn't truly understand the difference. To me, it was just like a big number and okay, we're aiming to get there and hoping we do. But I've watched so many people reach those numbers and now they're still working and they're asking themselves, what do I do? Those are the same people who are giving advice to other people right now, right? Because they're looking for, how am I going to get out of this rat race? How am I going to retire? For a lot of people, that was the FIRE movement, and they've since quit because they realized it doesn't work. Selling other people an idea so that you can become financially free doesn't work, and it's not sustainable. But there are systems and strategies that are sustainable. And you can't talk about how to do them. You have to be doing them yourself. That's the difference. What's the goal? Okay, well, we have one comment from Nathan said, what is the goal? Yes, sir. Jesus says, the reason most people want to be debt-free is because they are in consumer debt up to their eyeballs. Once understanding leveraging debt to purchase income-producing assets, debt becomes a game changer. That was in that last part of his comment, game changer. And you're absolutely right. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And I think that's essentially what I was saying is I was just waiting to find out where the road took us, right? Like you do your best and then you find out how far you got or where the road led you to. And that was being grateful for the journey, right? Not having an expectation out of the process. I absolutely have an expectation now because I know how to get places. If you wanted to go see the beach and you started heading towards Texas or St. Louis and you never were seeing the beach, would you feel a little disappointed? Would you just convince yourself to just be more grateful? Well, that's not what we do over here. We're GPSing to the beach. We understand how to read the map. We are okay with not being dependent on someone to tell us how to do it and to teach others how to do it too. So if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So where are you going? What is the goal? That has become like a mantra for us. And I'm trying to segue into the boat right now. That's what I'm trying to do.
Rock on.
All right.
Let's give away a few boats.
Oh, hey, it's Peaky. Hey, Peaky.
Throw hashtag boat into the chat.
Yeah, we're going to be giving away. It'd be great is if I had a button that could put the boat one up. Where is it? Here we go. Okay. We share this story about the boat because this is about achieving your goal. This is something that if you are really serious about this absolutely can happen for you. We know that because it happened for us too. If you don't know who's in your boat though, that could be a problem. It's you and who's in the boat with you. And that's why did you just put hashtag boat? Remember, you weren't going to do that again. You're being spicy.
Bruh.
You're being spicy tonight. Okay. You're being spicy. Well, now I can't remember what I was saying. We're going to show the boat video. Yeah, we're going to give a boat away. If you've been here before, then you know why we give this boat away. We're going to play the video. I don't think you can see it enough times. Every time I see it, I'm inspired. So we're going to play the boat, hashtag boat in the chat. Get yourself a boat so you have a visual reminder to ask yourself the one sentence solution. Will it make the boat go faster? That's how we're going to get there. So stand by. In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with two obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could or would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family, and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over. All right, if you put hashtag boat in the chat, then you're gonna show up on this wheel. Let's get started. Who's gonna win? We even have people who, even if you've won before and there's somebody that you want to give a boat to, you could win a boat for them. Hey! Congrats, Earl. Okay, well, let's put up how they go get it. Go to this site, same site. Can they hear me? Is it too loud? Do we care? Do we care? Because this song is a vibe. Go to this website at the very bottom. You'll see, did you win a boat? And then you click on that and it'll take you to the form. Tell us where to send it. All right, who else are we gonna send a boat to? Zaid, Zaid and his family all tune in, including his daughters, and I'm hoping now we have everybody a boat. I hope that's true. All right, well, that was kind of a bonus. Let's keep spinning. Donnell's like, how many boats are we sending out? Gotta get everybody a boat.
Got it.
See? Every time. Spicy. Hey, Feather, you know, you already won a boat. I hope that you got that you've claimed it already. But we will send another one. Oh, we can only spin through the length of the song.
Well, congratulations again. Go to selfdirected.info /live and put in the proper information, be able to collect your boat.
Yeah. Okay. So how about this? Come back. If you didn't win a boat, come back. Get your boat. Also, if you are, we should do something, maybe put it on the form. If you win and you're wanting to gift it to somebody else, like share that, then what I've been trying to do is add a card in there that you could fill out when you present it to somebody else, right? Like, because we don't know this person that you're going to give it to. So then maybe you could address it like, come in here to my boat community. Here's however sentimental you want to be. Okay. So, but come back and win a boat. We want everybody to have a boat. So congrats to everybody who won a boat. Oh, that's so sweet. She said, Feather says, I did, and it's an amazing conversation starter when I'm interviewing people. I have your little cards beside it too.
That's awesome.
I love that. Yes. Okay. She said the free 15-minute call with Donnell changed everything for me. Yeah, well, I'm so glad to hear that. And there have been hundreds of people who have taken advantage of this, and we hope that you will too. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. Okay, I think
Good.
we're good. Okay, all right. Let me find. Okay, nope. Hold on. I gotta find the one that we gotta end on. Here we go. All right. Ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. If you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
so stay tuned,
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
My name's Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you.
Get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources, and we're adding new ones all the time. If you haven't gotten those, don't sleep on them. Oh, we showed how to get the Velocity Banking Workbook, right? Yeah,
Yes,
we did.
we did.
So make sure, I'm going to show you in just a moment where to go to get all of that stuff. But if you haven't gotten the worksheet, grab it if you intend to use it so that you have a moment to kind of work it out and see if there's and let me know if there's any bugs in it. The point that I'm trying to make is any of the people who have questions about the worksheet, it would be helpful if we could do a Saturday session and all meet together on a Zoom call or inside of the Facebook group. I think you can join in that way too. But even if we could just do it on Zoom, that way we can talk through it and how to improve it, or if people have questions on how to use it for their particular use or have questions, I think that might be helpful. So don't sleep on those. All right. We are going to get out of here. The next one that what are we talking about next?
So I do have a bit more, I'll call it a more complicated, because this will be the last one, a bit more complicated velocity banking example that we'll walk through. So this one I think was pretty straightforward. Young man had a line of credit, we're able to address his debt pretty efficiently. But what happens if your situation is a little bit more complicated? So I'm going to dig into some of that.
Oh, cliffhanger. All right. Well, come back and tune in on Sunday. We're here Sunday and Wednesday. That's soon to change, by the way, at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and all the standard times after that. We'll see you guys back here on Sunday. Thanks so much for joining us. Till then. Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get self-directed.
Self-directed.